TWP popcorn. Y'all already know what time it is. Rumble don't know what time it is because, if they ain't watching the YouTube videos at 10, they don't get to see me recording this live. They just get to see when the video's posted. But, that's a different time frame for them. So, they get the studio quality. So, you win some, you lose some. Yeah, shout out to the studio quality, though. We appreciate that. They got to actually hear some music because, YouTube be hating on it. So, we can do that over there on Rumble. So we be getting it in, with the warm up preamble. You done got a little quick preview of the playlist over there. But, it's all type of stuff going on. Anyways, let's get this camera situated. Yeah, get you a good shot in there, and we're gonna go ahead and start the reviews. Let's talk that shit. Hell, I gotta roll up. What up, Six Bros? You could get indica sativa, never roll a plain chain. I know some people if you want drive 50, we ain't gon' cop any. Little mama got plenty, so many strain, puffing the flame, nothing but dro. One for the brain, one for the body, one for the soul. Running with strange, keeping the party under control. Up, away, flying, how far are we gonna go? Smoke team in the building, got 'em is what the deal is. Recognize coming with Burns, Felix with Film, the county boy got the liquor. Castle was on the fader, Stevie came with the greenery, mixing multiple flavors, whatever you want, homie. Tell me when to say when. How about you and your friends? Come get with me and my friends and keep it real with me, girl. I don't want to pretend like this is a new thing. Really, that's what it's been like.
Don't you remember the promise of legalization? You remember it, right? Or has it not hit your state yet? The green rush, printing gold, this new billion-dollar industry that was supposed to be built on freedom, fairness, and a tidal wave of tax money. We saw news anchors celebrating, the politicians cutting ribbons, and those long lines outside the first shiny dispensaries when sales began. This was supposed to be the end of the black market. What happened? For thousands of legal cannabis businesses, that dream has become a complete regulatory nightmare. And it's not because they're being outcompeted. It's because they're being regulated to death while competing with people that have no or little regulations. The legal flower and vape market, once pitched as this golden opportunity, is being systematically strangled, letting loopholes and illicit sales thrive. And the killer isn't this lack of demand. Cannabis is extremely popular. The killer is the very rule book that was designed to control it. The policies that were supposed to create a safe, legal market are doing the exact opposite. They're sending them right back to their local plug that they were supposed to be replacing. Or now they're giving them loophole options on the internet or their local smoke shop. When states started legalizing cannabis way back, almost 15 years ago now, the vision was clear. It was seductive. It was this picture of responsible entrepreneurs finally stepping out of the shadows and into the light. It was a promise for safe, tested products for everyone. And then a promise of social equity to help fix the damages from the failed war on drugs. It really looked like it was working. But if you look after 2020 to today, you'll see the cracks breaking the foundation and bringing change. This industry is facing what I can only describe as a quiet collapse. We're seeing businesses drowning in debt, and they're coming due next year, laying off thousands of people, putting their licenses up for sale, shutting the doors for good, in mature markets and in new ones, from coast to coast, and it's completely self-inflicted by the regulations that created it. This isn't a story about failing product. The demand for cannabis has never been higher. Some estimates put the total U.S. cannabis market at $60 billion, but the legal, regulated market captures only about half. So if the businesses aren't failing because people stop buying weed, what's going on? Well, the answer is as infuriating as it is absurd. The government, in its attempt to control the industry or ignore it, has created a system so burdensome, so expensive, and so contradictory that the laws themselves are their own worst enemy. The legal market is being crushed under the weight of its own bureaucracy, its absurd federal policy that openly flouts itself with a loophole letting marijuana sold from coast to coast online unless you light it on fire, and an absurd federal policy that openly flouts itself with a loophole letting marijuana be something totally different under federal law until you spark the joint. To understand the slow motion collapse that's been going on for the past 5 years, we need to break it down. Let's look at the three main weapons that regulations are using to kill legal cannabis: the crushing taxes, the regulatory chaos, and a complete lack of federal support, even federal infusion that undermines the licensed industry in the states that have systems. Let's get into the taxes. Everyone knew that legal cannabis would be taxed, but nobody expected the tax rates would be so high they'd make it impossible to compete. In some states, when you apply state, local, and special excise taxes, the price of legal cannabis can be 45% or more over its illicit market equivalent. In California, some estimates suggest that the illegal market is twice the size of the legal one, pulling in nearly $8 billion a year. Why? Because it doesn't have to charge customers a 38% tax. Think about that. Why would you buy a product that's nearly identical to another product for almost double the price? Nobody would do that. Well, I mean, some people might, but very few. People in my state of Illinois drive to Michigan to avoid paying a 35% tax on the legal vapes sold at licensed dispos in Illinois. For years, this problem has been made exponentially worse by a tiny piece of the federal tax code, Section 280E. Because cannabis is a Schedule I drug, the same as heroin, still, right now, 2025, under federal law, legal cannabis companies were banned from deducting normal business expenses: rent, payroll, electricity, marketing. You can't deduct any of it. How expensive would your price of your Starbucks coffee be if that Starbucks was told it had to pay its tax on gross revenue without first subtracting the cost of ordinary expenses like beans or baristas or its lease? Starbucks would either be out of business or they would jack their prices as high as they could get away with. And that's what's happening in the legal cannabis industry for the past few years. And since the 2018 Farm Bill, it's only gotten harder for the licensed shops because the same federal law that punishes marijuana companies benefits hemp companies for products for identical uses, except that hemp is mostly a semi-synthetic version of the more harshly regulated natural product. They take CBD isolate, spin it back in Delta-9. Now, there might be a glimmer of hope here. The federal government has finally proposed reclassifying cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. I'm not saying that's 100% what's going to happen. We don't really know under this new federal regime, which just is a surprise every day. But when this is finalized, which may be in 2025, it will get rid of the 280E problem, and that'll be a huge relief. But it's not a silver bullet. The state level taxes are very high, cripplingly high, and in some places they're going up. The second weapon is regulatory chaos. Okay, let's get into the main event here, because the feds only gave the production of half of hemp laws and kept marijuana Schedule 1. There's not one set of rules for cannabis federally. There's cannabis before it's on fire and after it's on fire. Then there are dozens of state laws that change how cannabis is regulated depending on what state you're in, and they can't do interstate commerce. This patchwork creates an operational nightmare for business owners trying to expand their operations outside their state lines, or even to do business inside their state lines. The insane cost of licensing, mandatory product testing, high-tech security. Our vault door is 25 freaking large. On top of that, in many places, local governments can just ban cannabis shops entirely, leaving these huge cannabis deserts where the only option is the illicit or loophole market, and then saturated areas where compliance and the loophole market take their slice of that total addressable market, or TAM pie. These hurdles create an environment where only the biggest, best funded companies or the most sophisticated operators can survive. And even they can go out of business, especially the independent entrepreneurs that legalization was supposed to empower through licensed ownership limits, so common throughout state has legalized. And finally, this third weapon, it's a complete lack of federal support. Even with cannabis rescheduling on the horizon, it is still federally illegal for recreational use and for any use for right now. This has one massive consequence. Cannabis industry is literally money laundering under the law until they move it out of Schedule 1. Most legal cannabis businesses can't get normal bank accounts. They can't accept credit cards. They can't get business loans. And they're forced to operate almost entirely in cash and forced to pay over $1,000 a month for a simple bank account. And after you find one of the few state chartered bank accounts that will provide what they call that bank account or treasury services, you can't get anything else. No credit. only about 8% of the banks actually bank cannabis. So there's piles of cash, which makes these dispensaries huge targets for violent crime and robberies. It's the $25,000 vault door. And there's a bill called Safer Banking Act that may try to help fix this, providing banks a safe harbor to work with state legal cannabis businesses. It's passed the House multiple times, but it always dies in the Senate. And as of mid-2025, it has not even been reintroduced in this Congress. A bipartisan group of 32 state attorney generals is pleading with Congress to pass it. And it points to risks of public safety, and its fate is uncertain as the redefinition of hemp. What are the real-world results of these disastrous policies? Let's break down the consequences. There are three big ones: the explosion or the perpetuation of the illicit market, the death of small businesses, and a trail of broken promises. The number one beneficiary of overregulation is the illicit market. It is the direct, logical, and entirely predictable outcome of bad policy that prohibits interstate commerce in this crop. The black market doesn't pay excise taxes. It will ship its product interstate. It doesn't pay expensive licenses. It doesn't pay for security. Okay, maybe they have guns. They shouldn't. It's another crime. It doesn't follow zoning laws, so it can easily undercut the prices of legal shops. In states like New York and California, illegal shops and delivery services outnumber the legal ones. The government basically created the perfect conditions for a black market to thrive, defeating the entire purpose of legalization. The illicit market uses the hemp market to put a wrapper of gray area legitimacy and move all sorts of product nationwide, even inverting the product into licensed operators in states such as New York and Missouri. The second consequence is the death of the small business owner that the license limits created by the state laws were supposed to support and enrich. You had this promise of legalization. You were going to be one of the few that had a license. There are limits on how many licenses you can own.
You got to figure out that, hey, this person buys a zip every week, so I make sure I had a zip every week. Then if, they get a little extra money they want to invest and get a pound, hell, I got a pound laying around too. So, hell, it's good business. Hell, you can't stop people that's out here actually getting it. Hell, because like he said, the black market is what it is for a reason. Hey, as long as I got some weed and I know people that's going to buy it, hell, my pocket is not going to sit in a diet.
And you take out private loans. You spend years fighting through a maze of applications. You stack all the chips that you can, and finally you get open with everything in it. And now your prices are 50% higher than the illegal plug in town or the gray market smoke shop that your state has done nothing to curtail. You can't deduct your expenses, so your tax bill is astronomical. You operate in fear of being robbed because you're forced to handle more cash than the average retail location. That's the reality of thousands of small operators, and there's only about 15,000 dispensaries in the whole United States. Many of them are mom and pop operators. They're small because of all these license limits and because how difficult it is to get licensed in a particular jurisdiction. Now, not all of them are losing money, but a lot of them are losing money. And the reason that is happening has to do mostly with federal law because there's not a uniform market for this. It all leads back to those unfulfilled promises. The huge tax revenues that the states were counting on fall short of these projections sometimes because the market is still illegal or in a loophole that just pays sales taxes. The social equity programs designed to give a foothold to the communities harmed by the war on drugs? Yeah, good luck with that. How are those doing? Some people hate them politically, and then other people don't like them because of the abuse of the social equity applicants that have happened. So this whole vision of safe, equitable, prosperous legal market, that's almost pie in the sky, fairy dust that they told the legislatures to be able to get the law passed. So what now? The situation seems absurd because it is. We have a legal industry that is being regulated so poorly that it's losing a fight against a very illegal alternative it was meant to replace. And this is a massive problem. It's a massive failure of public policy at the federal level. The path forward requires a radical rethinking of how we regulate cannabis. First, taxes need to be lowered to a reasonable level that lets legal businesses actually compete on price with the illicit market. Second, that illicit market needs to be nixed by a federal market so that they don't have to go to an illicit market because now cannabis is Schedule 3 nationwide. That's when we need regulations, because the hemp that people are eating and the Schedule 3 marijuana, they still won't be compliant with the Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act. So we need to create a new regulatory rubric that treats all THC the same. Now, that means, critically, Congress must act. Passing the Safe Banking Act doesn't really cut it after Schedule 3. And with the hemp loophole, again, we need comprehensive cannabinoid legislation to govern THC or CBD or natural cannabinoids for human consumption. It would immediately solve the cash problem, reduce the illicit market by creating a national market, and give businesses the access to capital they need to grow. The promise of a safe and legal cannabis market isn't lost, but it sure is stalled. However, pressure is building, like a kidney stone that's about to get passed. It won't be comfortable, but it will be much better after it's out of the system. This isn't a partisan issue. It's a common sense one. It's about letting legal businesses, all legal cannabis businesses, without any loopholes, ensuring public safety, and actually delivering on the promises that were made when this started decades ago. But what do you think? Is this the right move to regulate an out-of-control market, or is it a death blow to small businesses and consumer choice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Folks, this isn't a fight about an abstract piece of art. It's your neighbors, it's your job, it's your state's budget, and it's your right to safe, affordable cannabis. Help us push this channel past 100,000 subscribers so we can drag these facts onto every desk in Congress. Smash that subscribe button and share this video with one person who still thinks dispo weed sucks. And then stay tuned to the next video starting now.
Some places weed does suck, but some places get weed from good people. So
yeah. So like Fox Farms though, like I noticed so if you're going to plant in some Fox Farms ocean forest, you're saying, you plant a plant in there and you veg it out for like 2 months and you get that plant monstrous and you're ready to flip it into flower. Now you have to add amendments to there because there's nothing left in it.
Well, back up just a little bit. When you say you planted it for a couple months and it took off monstrous, do you know what's in that mix that makes that plant grow?
Synthetic salts.
It's pretty much what it is, but it's ammonium nitrate. So they spray this ammonium nitrate on sawdust, and that ammonium nitrate is like acid on a fucking slug. So think of the organic and biology that's in there. It's killing. They put that on there. You can throw a pile of that. It's called nitralized sawdust is what the industry calls it as an amendment to mix it, and that's what they buy. Roots Organic, a bunch of them do that as an amendment, and that's their nitrogen pack. And then they tell you they put a bunch of guanos and they do other stuff. They don't put shit on it. That's what it is, and that's the reason the difference between a good quality soil and them. And you just explained it, is it shot up and it grew through veg and it did really well. But the thing it's missing is that now, like if you grew in my soil or some good soil, it's not always my soil, but the difference between mine, you're asking, and Fox Farm and all the case studies, Fox Farm with ammonium nitrate in the soil, that plant will shoot up really quick. It grows quick, and it's a tomato plant. Let's just call it tomatoes. Let's do tomato, but same thing with any other cultivar. Is it shoots up really quick and it puts off a few tomatoes, and the wind comes and that plant has no structure and it falls over and it's lanky, right? Yes. My soil versus the same tomato plant, you got a fucking heavy stalk, you got this plant that just fucking sits up and does its thing and it's putting off tomatoes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the difference. And why does mine do that? Because I have a living soil concept behind it. I want you to grow with bacteria. I want you to grow with fungi. I want you to do everything that is healthy in that plant. The last thing you want to do is feed ammonium nitrates in a tomato to your kids at the dinner table. If you once you know kind of thing. You know? So.
Let's get into it. Number 10, unpaid internships disguised as experience. They don't call it exploitation, they call it experience. But take a step back, and the shape is familiar. Real labor, long hours, zero pay, and no guarantee of a future. It's work disguised as opportunity, and it's entirely legal. It's like a big fat loop so employers don't have to pay you. Unpaid internships are sold as a rite of passage. You're told to get your foot in the door. What you actually get is free from the company and a resume line that may or may not matter. Meanwhile, your landlord still wants rent, your grocery store still wants cash, and your future job, they might still pass over you for someone with more experience. The only people who can afford to take these roles are already financially supported. Everyone else gets locked out or forced to choose between survival and a chance. This system doesn't need chains, it has ambition. It doesn't need guards, it has HR. There are places in the world where this model would be called exploitation. Here, it's called paying your dues. Number 9. Extended warranties that cover nothing. You're at the checkout. The cashier asks if you'd like to protect your item for just a few extra dollars. It sounds smart, a little insurance in case something goes wrong, but most extended warranties aren't designed to help you. They're designed to never be used. The most common issues are often excluded in the fine print: accidental drops, water damage, wear and tear. Some require third-party approvals, multi-week waiting periods, or proof that's impossible to provide. And by the time something actually breaks, the warranty's expired, or the process just isn't worth the trouble. In most cases, customers either forget they bought it or decide it's easier to replace the item outright. That's not misuse, that's the business model. Retailers and third-party providers make millions from warranties that are never claimed, and face almost no downside for selling them. It's not a scam in the legal sense, but it works the same way. Offer peace of mind. Deliver paperwork. Number 8. Life and mortgage insurance. The illusion of protection. You buy life insurance to protect your family, but in many cases it doesn't protect them, it protects your lender. Mortgage insurance, for example, doesn't pay your spouse. It pays the bank to ensure their investment is safe, and if you miss a payment, even after years of contributions, your claim can be denied. Quietly, legally, permanently. The fine print is designed that way. It's not an accident. Payouts are structured with loopholes, timelines, and clauses that are easy to trigger and impossible to challenge once you're gone. Many families only discover this during the worst week of their lives. The paperwork arrives, the insurance declines, the house is gone. It's not that the system failed, it just worked exactly how it was written. Number 7. The college ranking scam. College rankings look objective, but under the surface, they're more like paid promotion than peer review. Many of the top lists, including the ones used by students, parents, and even employers, rely on data submitted by the universities themselves. That includes graduation rates, alumni donations, faculty credentials, and even vague terms like reputation. None of it measures teaching quality, none of it tracks student debt or long-term well-being. But all of it affects perception and tuition prices. Some schools hire consultants specifically to boost their numbers and rankings. Others game the system by excluding certain students from the data, especially those more likely to struggle. The result? A prestige economy that rewards schools for looking good on paper, not for educating well. It's marketing dressed as merit, and yet those numbers steer life-changing decisions. People move across the country, go into decades of debt, choose a path because one school had a slightly higher rank on a list built on sand. Number 6. The printer ink pricing trap. Printers are cheap. Ink is where they get you. A basic printer might cost $60, but the replacement cartridges? Often $80 or more, for just one color. HP, Canon, Epson, they don't make money on hardware. They profit from what they call the razor and blade model, sell the base cheap, and overcharge for the consumables. But it doesn't stop there. Most printers now come with DRM chips that detect and block third-party ink, even if it's identical. Some will refuse to print in black and white if a color cartridge is empty. Others disable printing altogether once you cancel a subscription plan. That's not technical limitation, it's programmed scarcity. There's no good reason ink should cost more per ounce than human blood. But in a system that thrives on repeat purchases, logic isn't the point. The real product isn't the printer. It's your dependency on it. Number 5. Brand name drug scams. Pay for delay. Imagine this. A cheaper version of your medication is ready. Same formula, same dose, same result. But it never hits the shelves because the expensive brand paid to keep it off the market. It's called pay for delay, and it's completely legal. Pharmaceutical giants regularly pay generic manufacturers not to release lower-cost alternatives. They sign settlements that delay competition for years, sometimes decades. It's not about protecting innovation, it's about protecting market share. In 2010, the FTC estimated that pay-for-delay cost Americans over $3.5 billion per year in inflated drug prices. And that was 15 years ago. By keeping generics off shelves, companies can continue charging $500 for something that should cost $40. And for patients, there's no negotiation, only a choice between going broke or going without. This isn't a loophole, it's a business model. Number 4. The Forever Chemical Cover-Up. They're called PFAS, short for PER, and polyfluoroalkyl substances, also known as forever chemicals, because once they're in your body, they don't leave. These synthetic compounds were used in non-stick pans, waterproof clothing, food packaging, and even drinking water systems. For decades, companies like DuPont and 3M knew they were toxic. Internal documents show they had the data, and still chose to sell the products anyway. The effects, linked to cancer, liver damage, immune issues, and developmental problems. And they've been detected in the bloodstream of 97% of Americans. There's no recall, no cleanup, no real accountability, because PFAS chemicals were never regulated like they should have been, and now they're part of the environment and your bloodstream. Governments are still arguing over thresholds. Corporations are still denying responsibility, and people are still cooking dinner on the same old Teflon pans. Not every scam sells a dream. Some just sell you something they knew would stay inside you. Number 3. Rebate breakage. Offers you'll never cash in. You see it everywhere. Get $100 back. Claim your rebate now. But what they don't mention is how often you won't. Rebate breakage is the business term for money that goes unclaimed. Companies rely on the fact that most people forget to submit, lose the receipt, miss the deadline, or give up when the process gets too annoying. It's not an accident. The system is designed to make redemption inconvenient. Some require you to print out forms, cut out barcodes, and mail everything in, with no guarantee of success. Others add vague conditions or delays that quietly disqualify you. And once the deadline passes, the money stays in the company's pocket. It's a win-win. For them, they get the marketing boost of offering a discount, without having to pay for it. In some industries, up to 70% of rebates go unclaimed, not because people don't want the money, but because they were never really supposed to get it. Number 2, fast food value. They used to call it the dollar menu. Now, it's the $2.19 menu, for half the size. Fast food chains still use the language of value, but the math has changed. Combo deals are often more expensive than ordering each item separately. Portion sizes have shrunk while prices have crept up, and limited time promotions reset just in time to raise the baseline price again. It's a game of psychology. People anchor their expectations to old prices even as the products get smaller and more expensive. Value becomes a brand word, not an actual metric. And because inflation is blamed for everything, the price changes slip under the radar. In the early 2000s, you could feed a family of 4 for under $10. Now, a single person might hit $15 for the same order and still leave hungry. It's not just sticker shock, it's shrinkflation, hidden in plain sight. Number 1. Passports, the price of permission. 100 years ago, most people didn't need a passport to travel. You could cross borders with little more than a name and a reason. Today, you need paperwork, fees, biometric data, and sometimes approval just to enter a country you've never harmed. The passport system as we know it is relatively new. It became widespread after World War I, not for safety, but for control. And over time, it turned into a global gatekeeping mechanism. Now, a US passport costs $165, not including rush fees, passport photos, or the cost of getting to one of the few approved offices. Lose it? Pay again. Need it fast? Pay more. And depending on where you're going, you'll still need to pay for a visa, with prices that vary wildly based on politics, nationality, and time of year. It's not about identity. It's about proving you're allowed to leave. What started as a temporary wartime measure became a permanent bureaucracy. And now, movement, one of the most basic human freedoms, is locked behind a paywall. That's it for today. I'll be making similar videos, so subscribe to see them.
Yep, That makes no sense. Why do I gotta have a passport to travel?
$3 billion in annual revenue, but federal legalization, it would blow the ceiling off. Currently, companies navigate a patchwork of state laws, which complicates everything from operations to banking access. With federal legalization, it would open up institutional investments, remove the risk of federal prosecution, and clear the way for major mergers and acquisitions. Essentially, it turns cannabis into a national industry, just like alcohol and tobacco. And I know that's hotly contested. Now let's look at the economic effects, and they would be huge. With federal legalization, we could be looking at $100 billion in total market valuation within the next 5 to 7 years. States with legal cannabis have already seen job booms, with over 420,000 full-time cannabis jobs created so far. So imagine that expanding nationwide. Cultivation, distribution, retail compliance, and even marketing sectors would thrive. And then there's the tax revenue. State and local
Adults in Germany can now possess up to 25 grams of cannabis in public and grow up to 3 plants at home.
My biggest questions that I'm trying to get answered are, what does this program actually mean to the people of Germany? What does it mean to the people in Berlin and major cities? And when do they think the people will finally have open access to cannabis? On April 1st, 2024, Germany officially decriminalized the possession and home cultivation of recreational cannabis. Despite some remaining political pushback, this policy shift for one of Europe's biggest economies could mark the beginning of wider legalization and decriminalization across the continent. So we went to Berlin this year expecting to see a thriving recreational market, but as we found out, things were much more complicated. Coming in, I thought Germany was a recreational market. Like, I thought, we're gonna come in here, we're gonna go into a rec store, we're gonna buy some flour, we're gonna buy some concentrates. It's going to be as accessible as it would be in Colorado, in Oregon, in California, but it's not the case. Here, they're trying to stay within a very fine scope of what is legal and doing everything they can to not cross that line. But I thought this was going to be a free, open market, the home of cannabis in Europe, and what it really is, the opening up of regulation around cannabis. In very simple terms, possession and home cultivation was decriminalized, but recreational sales are still illegal. The only legal way to purchase cannabis in the country is still through their existing medical cannabis industry.
At the moment, you only have medical. There are only a few clubs in Germany, maybe a handful, who are already selling or giving recreational or adult cannabis to their hemp. The original idea was the regulation of the market. The first step was the amendment of the German Act of Narcotics, so that cannabis was not prohibited substance anymore. Then we had a two-pillar system. The first pillar was home grow and social clubs. Yeah, recreational, like we have in California and elsewhere. The second pillar they promised us was dispensaries, so a proper value chain. But in Germany, they reached only pillar 1, home grow and clubs. They skipped pillar 2. So because cannabis was removed from the Narcotics Act, it was far easier to give out prescriptions for cannabis. So the old pro-cannabis party and the conservatives is against cannabis. And they make the kind of agreement of peace, not to abolish the current regime, but also not developing it further.
Cannabis has been legal for medicinal use in Germany since 2017, but the industry is still experiencing a lot of growing pains. While progress towards a real recreational market has stalled for the time being, decriminalization and loosened restrictions have led to a surge in patients looking for medical cannabis options. To meet the growing demand, imports have played a major role in supplying pharmacies, but that comes with its own set of challenges.
Just so we all understand each other, the flower is not a finished pharmaceutical. It's always a magistrate when it reaches the pharmacist, and the pharmacist turns it into a finished pharmaceutical. So even with flower, all they do is they open the glass, they look at it and say, smells like weed, looks like weed, puts it in a different package and charges you 100% margin. That's what the market's like right here, which is audacious.
Yeah. And it's not certified for sale until they see it and look at it. There's no direct-to-consumer way to do this right now.
That's the biggest problem. We can't secure superior quality. Even in flour, the biggest mistakes is that we can do everything right. Everything's in Turplock bags, but it's mainly the pharmacy that just, leaves the bag open.
Yeah, if there's a hair in it, if it's in a hot room or something.
And it's crazy because under GMP standards, you spend millions on facilities, on processes, on SOPs, just not to mix up the rooms, and the pharmacists don't even give a shit,
Yeah.
And a lot of people, or pharmacists, they're not necessarily patients or consumers themselves. So we are seeing a transition that more and more pharmacists, enthusiasts, passionate people are leading this, but it's still a fucking challenge. We always have to go through another step, which means we import it into an EU country. It's manufactured here at another facility, which really means repackaged and labeled. But that entire process always comes with, permits, regulators. You're losing so much.
It lands in Portugal at a EU GMP process, and then that's a real bottleneck in Portugal. And then there's just the timelines are so slow.
It's happening during the summer. You could have a whole batch ruined if it's sitting in a container for 3 months, not moving.
A lot of people don't know this. I talk about a bureaucratic process, German standards, and you'd think that every agency sees it the same way, but we're actually cannabis lawyers, and in that sense, however, there's the law and then interpretation of the law. So every municipality has a guy sitting there, right, reviewing your papers, and maybe he had a fight with his wife, and that's why you don't actually get the products in. There's huge differences between the standards and kind of processes within the municipalities, and even for consumers. Like I just said, Berlin and Munich are two different mindsets. It's getting better to the point where more and more agencies, there's a certain standard. An agency just a few kilometers the other direction might say, you're good to go, and ours said no, but then it's for all of Germany.
The federal government has said, hey, you can now get licenses to import and sell cannabis at pharmacies. And every state is either like, amazing, we're going to issue a bunch of licenses, or we don't want this here at all. Nobody gets a license. It's not happening. By and large, most of the people we spoke to are focused on working with their legislators to push for a more open and someday even recreational market. For now, with very few exceptions, you need a prescription written by a doctor to purchase cannabis. However, because cannabis no longer qualifies as a narcotic in Germany, prescriptions have become much easier to obtain, leading to the very few gray areas in their market.
And so how does it work? There's edibles. We can also, in the future, we're going to have a telemedicine situation where basically people come in, they get an iPad. With the iPad, they get the prescription from the doctor. The prescription gets sent to the partner pharmacy. The pharmacy has delivery people, and they basically bring the medicine, and we let them consume the medicine. Not smoke weed, consume medicine.
There is something called a telehealth service here in Germany. And if you're not German, it's really hard to access something on there and get it delivered to your door, but not impossible. The whole process, from going to the website to having it delivered to your door by Uber, actually only takes 45 minutes. We got our package. Let's open it and see what's inside. From what I understand, some of the stuff here was made in Germany and some was made in Canada. There is no comparison between what's happening in the underground and what is available in the medical market. I know there are some struggles with getting the Canadian stuff here, and I know that it might come a bit old because it got jammed up in customs. However, they're still a bit ahead of the curve, and I think it's going to take some time for Germany to catch up. It's probably going to take a lot of regulatory change for that to happen.
This prescription procedures right now via telemedicine, abusing medicine for recreational supply. And this is not sustainable in Germany. This is against the law, against European law. Don't get me wrong, I'm not so much against it, but it's not a proper solution, and it won't succeed in Germany because it's not German that patients, that consumers get a prescription via the pharmacy and medicaments they don't need.
One option the recreational market does have for growth is their version of members-only cannabis social clubs. These are fully regulated clubs where cannabis can be distributed to members for recreational use. It is still early days for social clubs, and while some have started to open their doors, they are facing a lot of challenges.
They are called social cannabis clubs, but they are not very social by smoking together.
So people are going to come to social lounges here mainly for access.
But you're not allowed to smoke in social clubs. It's the right cash and carry. On one hand, it's over-regulating the cannabis clubs. On the other hand, it's not regulated at all.
what would you think would be like the ideal model for Germans?
I think the only way is production in Germany. I tell you, every cannabis club which is opening right now is a manifest for freedom and the recreational smoke. But the quality must be better than on the black markets. Yeah, and you have these top growers in the black markets. Yeah, and they often are full of passion for the products. They are moving slowly now into the cannabis clubs.
Now that cannabis is decriminalized in Germany, it feels like there's more of a conversation happening between users and non-users alike. People like that something is no longer a crime. Overall, that is a great thing for German society. But what we notice the most of is people who are consuming and people who aren't, all eager to engage in a conversation on what the future of cannabis will be in Germany. It's going to take some time for them to be able to manufacture at quality and at scale here in Germany, but I think they're taking the right path and making sure that they can feed today's market while building out the future market. And eventually, great cannabis has to come from Germany.
You know, if I paint a rosy picture, I see medical still, playing a role within the next, call it 3 to 5 years. On the one hand, for real, patients that need it, but also just ease of access and kind of the industrial supply chain already standing. But I do also see, social clubs and our politicians and regulatory bodies finding a way that we're going to have a true recreational industry in the future.
I think there are a lot of variables at play that will make cannabis successful in Germany. And so this is a moment not just to show Germany what the cannabis community can be, but to show all of Europe. And that is a responsibility that we all carry. So, is Germany the new weed capital of Europe? Only time will tell, but what do you think? Let us know down in the comments, and maybe consider subscribing if you aren't already. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
Silence! Silence! I ain't got no money, pun. I don't want any trouble. My light's about to get cut off. Had you been practicing on your art, you know you're way in the dark. Silence!
Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys, back from a camping trip, and there's been a lot of action in the cannabis space while I was gone. We had a buildup of a bunch of articles being shared. We had Trump mentioning that we're going to get a decision on rescheduling within the next few weeks. We tend to think that that's going to mean we're going to get rescheduling because it would be very odd for them to dangle a 70% plus favorable issue and then say, nah, never mind, we're not going to do it. But we also saw a bit of a sell-off to end this past week. So where do we stand as we wait for a decision on rescheduling? Let's see what the charts say. I'm also going to touch on some psychedelic stocks at the end of this video, but that's the backdrop. We're pretty much just waiting for the decision from Trump. And a few weeks, we can gauge roughly end of August, early first half of September. And again, probabilities would dictate that we're going to get rescheduling. Is it going to be a sell the news reaction? It's tough to say because we don't know what the price action is going to be leading up into it. The harder we run, the more likely it's an initial sell the news reaction, and the more we pull back, the more likely it won't be a sell the news reaction. And I'm not going to try and predict what the next 3 weeks of price action is going to be. Again, that's why I keep saying one day at a time, because every day we get new information. There's no need to paint ourselves into a corner by predicting things when we can be reacting to the new information that we're given every single day. So the last cannabis video, which was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about the start of what was looking like a coordinated pump, in the sense that on Twitter we were getting a bunch of accounts talking about it. I'll call that wave 1 of the pump. And then we had wave 2, which was the Forbes article that was saying, there's just more of the same. This anonymous person said that Trump said this. And then, of course, once Trump actually gave a little bit of a timeline, things became a lot more concrete because, as we know, we've been operating with no timeline whatsoever on any of this ever since the HHS recommendation. We knew it was just going to be a long, drawn-out process, but this condenses the window a bit, which makes things a bit more exciting and makes people more active in their buying, so to speak. So at this point, just to get it out of the way, I've got exposure in MSOS, CRON, and then at the end of the video, ATAI, MNMD, CMPS. So those are my holdings. My mindset is this is my core swing position that I won't sell. At a bare minimum, I need a decision. Once we get a decision from Trump, then I can sell my swing position. If I add any positions, which I am open to doing, that can then be more shorter term mindset. And if I'll sell partial positions. If we go up 5%, I sell half, break even, stop. That's my style if I'm looking to add. So that's my game plan going forward. We dumped here to close the week. And generally we look for hourly oversold. We call it a back burner. Hourly oversold to mark a daily high or low. We got right up to hourly oversold. And I was hoping that would happen during, a morning, regular trading hours to allow a bounce to play out. So if Monday rolls around and we get another leg down and fresh lows, I will be looking to play the hourly oversold bounce. But that remains to be seen. As we know, again, the trickery with the ETF in the final 5-10 minutes of trading is very well known at this point. And this is the second day in a row we got this kind of dump. So, all that said, we just went straight up 68% since last daily consolidation. And so now daily consolidation is underway, and we know a higher low is the most likely scenario with a lot of space for that higher low to form. Bulls want to see, again, hourly oversold, market daily higher low, and they want daily EMA 12 support to continue holding as it has the last few periods of consolidation. The bears clearly set up shop in the 530s. If we zoom into the 15-minute time frame, the wild action pre-market was on very low volume. I mean, decent volume, $500,000 to $1 million traded, but compared to regular trading hours, not very convincing. But look at all this resistance in the 530s. Yesterday, that was really the last 2 days, that was defense for the bears. Topped out at 531, 530. Then yesterday it was 537, 38, 35, 36. And then today we roll over and break short-term support. You can see the dump end of the day yesterday into the close, last 10 minutes, dropped us down to close at the low. And then again, same thing today as well. And so the hourly downtrend is now our guide. And I view the hourly lower high as 496. So we opened at 518, or the high of the day was 518. Drop down, lower high, lower low. So on the next bounce, again, let's just say we dropped down to hourly oversold here, and we might have just got there, but I'm not going to play the last 5 minutes of trading for an hourly bounce. But let's just say, we get to hourly oversold at 445, and I make an entry. If the hourly bounce then gets underway, I know an hourly lower high is the most likely scenario, so I sell partial. Let's say I sell 445 to 465. And then I stick a stop at 425 for break even. And if we set a healthy daily high or low and stay strong, I now have a larger position size, and I've got different stops on different parts of the position, and I let it play out and see if that can lead to continuation. We have to see the bulls regain an hourly uptrend for the daily high or low to be shaping up. So we know the next bounce that we see, we're just going to be looking for an hourly lower high. The bulls will have to prove the follow-through of the higher low and the higher high if we're going to be shaping up the daily higher low. So there are no red flags at this point. Obviously, a little PTSD from the bulls saying, here we go again. But, again, straight up 68%, this pullback at this point is not a red flag. There's a support level at 444. In an ideal world, the bulls hold that. But, again, for me, it's the uh-oh will be if you lose daily EMA 12. And so the question is going to be, are bulls on the sideline waiting to buy this dip, anticipating a rescheduling announcement within the next few weeks? And if this move's going to have any follow-through, that obviously has to happen. Right now, bigger picture, you go to the long-term time frames. Let's go to the 3-month chart. Every candle's 3 months here. If we don't break 1137, it's just a longer term lower high. So the bulls have a ton of work to do. Obviously, they got a nice move off the double bottom at the all-time low. We talked last video about the importance of needing to close over 332. No, it was 338, and 323. I wanted to close over 323 because if that happened, to me, the probability we're going to break 338 after that is very high. So we did get that close eventually over 323 back on August 4th, and we had a lot of follow through from that point forward. And so again, my trading style is not nailing tops and bottoms, and if you waited for that signal, yeah, you missed a bunch of the move initially, but it wasn't too late. There were still very worthwhile gains to be had for another 50% almost. Math is not in the brain at the moment. 60%. So a late signal already plus 50% off the low gets another 60% of follow through. And so again, that's why I stick with the charts, and I want to see that momentum to show me things are shifting. And so we need a healthy daily high or low, ideally on Monday, to shape that up, to alleviate some of the PTSD. As far as the individual names, again, in the last video, we talked about how there was rotation starting to take place into Curaleaf. And we saw that by looking at CURLF divided by MSOS. And that was back around here. The candle that Thursday before the video stood out as that rotation. And it's been nothing but rotation into CURLF since then. And if where's it coming from? Go to GTBIF divided by MSOS, and we can see that it's coming from Green Thumb. There is capital rotating from Green Thumb to Curaleaf, and also to True Leaf. But Green Thumb just closed the weakest it's been compared to MSOS the entire year, almost 9 months. And you've got, again, Curaleaf closing at the highest it's been in a year in terms of relative strength. And then TCNNF divided by MSOS tested the all-time high and rejected, but still holding on much better. So again, zooming way out, what happened is Green Thumb held on a lot better when the market was weak and dumping and hitting all-time lows. The sector, I should say. And now we have that rotation out of Green Thumb and into the peers. And just a note on the backdrop as well, another thing that happened this past week is a really high PPI reading. Low cap names want to see rates drop. And so when we get a high PPI reading, the probabilities that rates are going to drop in the September FOMC meeting drop a bit. Not much, but they did drop. And so that has an impact as well. We want to see, of course, the broader market stay strong, and at the moment it is. SPY, maybe the second highest close, third highest close all time. We're still up there at all-time highs, so there's no red flags in the broader market, but we need to see daily higher lows form. And we need to see bulls willing to buy the dip. Did everybody use up all their stack, market buying in the first week of that news, or is there cash on the sidelines waiting for this consolidation to either get in or to add? And we're going to get that information this coming week. So as far as specific levels, again, for MSOS, it's the 530s. I really want to see the bulls get to this gap fill. The vote. Remember the big gap on the bear reaction of the vote? Well, there's a gap, 549 to the 680s. There's previous price action in this range, but as far as recency, that gap could potentially see things open up a bit in terms of bulls having an easier time making progress. And you can see we pulled back 11 cents under that level. That's the most important resistance for me right now, 549. Well, the high of this move, 538 and 549. Very important resistances to see if this move can progress, or was that just a fast, hard pump? And it's business as usual for this sector, which we've seen 100 times over the last few years. As far as the other individual names, again, Curaleaf, look at the gap. We've already filled it. So there's that relative strength showing itself. The earnings gap, we got back to it. That was at, not the earnings, the vote gap, 303. And we got up to 308. So big progress there. That said, again, we just went straight up hundreds of percent. So consolidation has to happen when you're in that kind of a move. 300% straight up. So can the bulls form a healthy higher low? And again, when you're in a strong uptrend, You hold daily EMA 12. Cureleaf is doing it perfectly. Every period of daily consolidation holds it and sees another leg up. And that's what we need to see keep happening over the next couple of weeks. Short-term support, 255, but keep an eye on EMA 12. And obviously there's a resistance wall now, triple top at 308 the last 3 days. TCNNF, current top is the most important resistance, 925, and then we care about the vote gap, 1151. There's a support level down at 698, which was the low of the day, pretty much 2 days here earlier in the week, and daily EMA 12 is going to be aligning with that level Monday or Tuesday. Green thumb, GTBIF, very clearly bears are defending $9. We topped out at $9 3 days in a row and then dumped. There's a gap to fill to the downside at 740, but it's all about $9, and then I'd be looking up at 1049 as we already filled the vote gap when there was relative strength back then. But now that is relative weakness. So what does that mean? Well, for me, it always means don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have some diversification. If you don't want to have the ETF, that's fine. But, we want to have some exposure. And what some traders will do is, we'll just call those the large cap names, relatively speaking. Those 3 names, you got the ETF, and then you got all these low caps. I'm not going to look at all these different companies. A lot of requests on Twitter, but some of them don't have enough volume for me to pay attention to, like MRMD. But the low cap names generally see bigger percentage moves. So, you could be in 2/3. I could have a third of my position in TrueLeaf, a third of my position in Green Thumb, and a third of my position in Glasshouse or Verano or one of those names to just get some exposure where if this is go time, those lower cap names, they dump more on the way down and they go up more on the way up. And so personally, this sector's volatile enough for me to just be sticking with the larger names. I don't really mess with the low volume, more volatile names, but it all depends on your strategy and what your game plan is. And so again, for me, I got right up my account, which is now, it went from a cannabis account, I got my day trading account, my IRA swing trading, and a cannabis account. It's now cannabis and psychedelics, and I got right back to the all-time high, which was right before the vote came out. And then obviously it took a big hit because I was trying to be a bit aggressive with TrueLeaf and kept some position on for the possibility that vote would pass. And so 2 days ago, I got right up to that all-time high, thanks to psychedelic names, thanks to being in cash for a lot of the downside. But now I got a double top in my account because it's pulled back the last 2 days with MSOS. So again, I'm going to let it play out where I'm okay giving back profit. I've had a great year elsewhere, and this sector is going to be a big win or it's going to be a small win. And I'm not really going for the solid win. So I'll either give back a move down to the upper 3s or we're going to $6 plus is my approach at the moment. So with regards to the smaller names, Glasshouse, watching this name because of the headlines, we pretty much had a double bottom down at support on that headline reaction. That low was 460. We dropped to 455 and had a solid bounce. And so now I'm anticipating what we call an equilibrium, which is a tightening range. And if we fail 886, we're just going to look at essentially tightening up. But it's doing the same thing as everybody else. We're pulling back. Hasn't technically broken the low of the last couple of days like other names have. So we can say key short-term support 674. But if 674 breaks, we're going to look to trade within this range for a while. We'll look for a higher low from where we came from. But comparing to VRNOF, again, top is in for now. Most important resistance 173. Establish a daily higher low. Hourly RSI got real close to oversold but didn't quite get there. We need that daily higher low. Holding EMA 12 Monday, Tuesday the latest, but ideally Monday. And again, this name, more drop on the way down. That vote gap is all the way up at 272. We need a 100% move. I mean, from where we topped out, we need a lot more to get back to that, filling that gap, 70 to 100%. gets towards that gap fill. So because we dropped more, it's a longer way to get there, but we also saw, again, a 200% plus move off the lows. MSOS isn't going to go 200% like these low cap individual names. SNDL, let's get on to some of the higher listed names. So SNDL, very similar. Pull back, we're looking for a daily higher low, anything above 164. Bulls want to hold EMA 12. They want hourly oversold to mark a local bottom. Bigger picture, there's a lot of work to do. We go to the monthly chart. Bigger picture, again, I'm just imagining I'm a bear. I'm not. But if we don't break 293, nothing changes the long-term structure of this downtrend. Otherwise, it's just a lower high compared to that level. So a name like SNDL still has a lot of progress. And again, you got to keep an eye on volume. You know, this name's now trading $10 million. That's plenty. MSOS has, $50 million, $100 million traded a day. That's plenty. But when you get to some of these smaller names, VRNOF, volume today was less than $1.5 million traded. And for someone like myself, I have rules, right? As a professional trader, I have to have rules. Don't invest long-term in OTC names. I learned that in my penny stock days back in 2013. Don't trade names that have less than generally I want to see I'll make some exceptions, but I want to see $5 million average dollar volume a day as my bare minimum. And I have to stick to these rules because the only thing that keeps me a profitable professional trader is having rules that you stick to, and that's the discipline that keeps us in this game long term. This is now year 15 that I've been trading cannabis stocks, and it's gone well. And I know it hasn't gone well for most people, which is why I'm trying to share my knowledge, but we got to be taking profits into euphoria, generally speaking. But again, I've explained my situation, and also my positions aren't massive. If my current MSOS position goes to 0 tomorrow, I'm gonna give back maybe like 15% of my profits on the year. So as I mentioned, it's been a good year elsewhere, Tesla and everything, crypto. So because of the volatility of these names, I'm not going for a home run here. My home run was in this sector in 2018, and I locked in that home run. And so, again, everybody's going to have a different game plan. Some people are going for a home run, and that's fine. Just make sure you've got a game plan for all scenarios. So SNDL, we're looking for a daily higher low. TLRY, so a bit of a short squeeze. Again, these names coming off of all-time lows. You just got to be really cautious with the dilution on these Canadian names. And I haven't read these financial statements in who knows how long. But if you Google Chart Guys dilution, I did a video teaching about dilution, and the example I used was ACB for a death dilution spiral. And little did I know, CGC and TLRY would follow in that same path. And so, again, longer term, monthly chart, if I'm a long-term bear, this monthly chart isn't scaring me yet. Obviously, the fact that we've gone up 100 whatever percent, 150% plus, 200%, that's significant from the lows, but let's just say I'm short from a year ago, I'm still not sweating. So a lot of work has to be done. And the path that these charts often take is the pump and then fade. And so obviously, as I've said for years, we need the actual concrete change to the federal landscape of cannabis if these charts are going to change. If they don't, we're going back to all-time lows, right? If we don't get rescheduling, the sector's a short again. I don't really short this sector. People like to accuse me of things. The dollar volume that I've shorted in this sector versus long, it's literally 99% to 1. And when I'm shorting, it's generally hedging long positions. That was my point. But you can see, after the vote, right? The sectors are short. It was a terrible response to the vote. We've got Florida failing. We got whatever other initiatives failed as well. And at that point, we know it's a long summer. It's a short. So for me, that just means selling longs. I'm not going to actively short this sector, but a lot of people will. And so again, without that concrete change, it's going to go back to business as usual. And as I mentioned in the last video, I think I said 75 to 78% chance that what I was seeing on social media was inside info. And so I do believe that we are going to get some confirmation of rescheduling from Trump. What does the timeline look like? What does uplisting look like? I have no idea. But I do believe that this move has more merit behind it than other moves. Again, HHS was, okay, this is great news. This timeline can be 2 years for all we know. We have a few week timeline. CGC. So CGC was a falling wedge. I really dislike, as a technical analyst, a really nice pattern that earnings is then going to be the deciding factor, because I'm not going to do the coin flip and trade earnings. But it was a falling wedge, and earnings caused it to break bull. But again, if everything was doing what CGC is doing right now, massive red flags. We gave back 65% of the move up. That is not a good sign. We rejected from resistance. So again, these names that have significant dilution, we just got to be more cautious with them. For me, these are more traders. Like, we're trading these names versus maybe longer term. Again, I'm not investing in anything in this sector, but longer term swing trades, I'm open elsewhere. But here's CGC rejected from $2. And if we do not break $2, long-term bears have nothing to worry about. If we drop down and break $1, we're right back into a long-term downtrend. So I do expect a higher low compared to 102 from where we came from. But, I mean, look at where we stand now. We can bounce, 40% and just form a daily lower high? No, not that much. 30% and just form a daily lower high. So we've given back too much of this move. It's not ideal. You want to get back 40% or less. At MSOS, where are we measuring from? Let's just keep it uniform. CGC will measure from the 6th. And so the 6th here, we've given back 40% on MSOS. That's very different. If we had given back the same amount, we'd be under $4 right now. And it would be, here we go again. So out of everything we've looked at so far, CGC has the biggest red flag. I mean, compared to SNDL, how much we've given back? Nothing even close to that. So CGC has the biggest red flag with the amount of the retracement here. ACB, we had a nice weekly tightening range, the equilibrium that broke bull. Higher low, lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low, bull break. We still got a couple key resistances. Again, go to the monthly chart. If I'm a bear long term, do I have anything to worry about? Not if we keep forming monthly lower highs. We topped out on that pump back in April 2024, and then a lower high at 720, and then a lower high at 691, and then another at 625. So if this is a lower high compared to 625, the prolonged downtrend continues. These names that are coming from all-time lows still have a lot of work to do. Same deal. We're looking for a daily high or low. Bulls want to hold EMA 12. How much have we retraced? 382. So much better than CGC. Cron. So I was in Cron because I really liked the setup. There was relative strength. I really liked the setup for the break of this wall. And we didn't get any follow through. So the way I played this is I made an entry off of $2 support. I added a break of 215 saying, here we go. Like this is a key resistance just broke. We only broke it by a couple pennies. The next day, red flag. I exit my aggressive add. I took a small loss on that aggressive add, but I kept my core position. It's all right. My thesis hasn't been invalidated. I'm going to let this play out a little bit. And so I still have that position. Gap fill down at 235. Hasn't filled just yet. But again, same thing. We need the daily high or low. We're giving back a little bit more than the bulls want to see. Approaching 50% retracement. Anytime you retrace 50% or more, you then scout the equilibrium as the most likely scenario. So anything that retraces 50%, unless we get a new headline, we're going to anticipate just a tightening sideways range until we get some news. All right, we'll do VFF and then a quicker check-in of psychedelics here. So again, VFF has stood out as the most bullish cannabis chart, regardless of where or what, in a long time. We just hit 3-year highs. Nothing is hitting 3-year highs, aside from psychedelic names, which we'll talk about in just a moment. Some of them, ATAI. But same deal, daily consolidation. Actually, it's not even officially underway. We would have to break 254 for that to be the case. Then we look for the higher low, EMA 12. Again, it's not picture perfect, right? We closed right down at it there. But essentially, we've been riding daily EMA 12 as support for a month and a half at this point. And so the next major resistance level, aside from this top of 291, 3 psychological, then we're looking up at 353, but weekly. I mean, we're riding the weekly EMA 12. MSOS, not doing that yet. In an ideal world, that's what we get. You know, this is the first bull cross of EMA 12 and 26 that we've seen since the Bears took over. And if we can back test next time we do it and hold and then start seeing the uptrend on the long-term time frames, that's what we need. ATAI pulling back. Weekly consolidation is underway. Again, still very healthy. Another name, weekly EMA 12, right off of it before another leg up. That's our guide in the short term. You can see there's some decent dips, but they have been bought. We were closing over daily EMA 12 for 6 weeks, but this is the first close under it today. So that's an indication things are potentially shifting a little bit, but at the moment, this is still healthy consolidation. As far as the fundamentals, I'm not on top of them at this point. Again, this sector is very high risk, high reward. Data can come out at any point, 20% move up or down in either direction. Biotech sector did just get a bull break to the highest level in 6 months. That helps. Again, low caps. I'm watching to see if we get rotation into low caps, IWM, but want to see rates cut for IWM to potentially get some attention. But as of now, bulls are scouting a weekly higher low. You got names like MNMD, which just had a V-shaped recovery. We're battling. Look at this zone here. And so I've got positions in these names as I mentioned, but you know, I'm looking at adding. And so I want to see turn this resistance zone into support, and I'll average up and I'll add. You know, my position right now in MNMD is, I forget from where, 7s maybe, 6s, somewhere down here. And I will average up 50% higher than I bought if the key resistance is turned into support. Because again, that then opens up the door where we may get to the highest level in 3 years here as well. If we can clear 1136. Nope, 1222 is the level. But we just rejected from resistance again. So what do I care about? I care about the top at 1049 and our weekly higher low off of EMA 12. I care about that as well. So if neither of these levels are breaking, we're not getting any new information, but we didn't turn that resistance into support. So just patiently observing. CMPS, again, I use this fear dump in the sector to grab these longer term positions. In hindsight, you know, it would have been nice to rotate into cannabis, but if these names get another leg up sometime in the next 2 weeks, then that won't be the case. So I have to see how it plays out. But I am very much going to be focused on both aspects of these sectors. And again, CMPS, same deal. Look at this resistance zone. If I'm going to add here, you know, the position's up 65. Just got to form 4. Let's see if somebody's buying or selling ATAI. It froze. If I'm up like 65% in this position, 70%, if I'm going to add, it will be almost 100. It will be 100% higher than I bought, but I need this zone that we've rejected from 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I've got to see that turned into support. I can't add right under it. That would be silly. Form 4, real quick. ATAI. Acquired. Ooh, that's a sizable chunk. So whenever you get one of these, you got to then look at, is this just part of the compensation package, or is this in addition? You know, are they going out of their way to buy more? And I'm not going to be able to give that answer right now, but it's better than a sell. We'll see. Okay, appreciate you watching. Again, establish a game plan. You need, I mean, even if it's an 80% chance that we're going to get rescheduling, you need a game plan. What am I going to do if we get no word 6 weeks from now? What am I going to do if we get word that we're not getting rescheduling? Obviously, everybody's going to sell everything in short. But You've got to be thinking these things out in advance. It's not just, I'm buying and holding it until we're $20. As we know, it is not that simple in this game. And anybody that has done that in these sectors has been hurt big time. So it's nice to have some life revived into the space, and I will keep covering it as long as, we're waiting for this dangling carrot as always. But let's see if this time can be different with concrete actual change. Thanks for likes and shares and stuff. See you soon. Do good things.
Y'all know to go check out the big homie.
Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light. Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light. Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light. Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the garden, by the door, in the bedroom, on the floor. Remember me when you're far away. I always have a place for you to stay. In the middle of the night, I'm gonna be there till the morning light.
I have been obsessed with this project since the renderings were released at the beginning of 2023, and today I have the pleasure of taking you on a full tour of Kansas City's newest entertainment district. Welcome to Penway Point. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this 150-foot observation wheel, and for good reason. It seems like it appeared overnight, but what about the rest of Penway Point? Well, in this video, I'm going to interview the people behind the development to talk about the overall vision, why they picked this specific location, and lastly, when everything's going to open. So I'm joined today by Dante, one of the minds behind this incredible development down here, Penway Point. Can you tell us a little bit about where the inspiration for this project came from?
You know, the project has evolved multiple times over the past few years. So one of my partners, Vince Bryant, he's the developer and kind of creator of all of Penway Point. So he got the historic Carter Waters building and the property under contract in 2020. He bought it for the historic building. The initial plan was probably to scrape most of the rest of the property, but as, you know, Carter Waters moved to their new location, we were allowed to come in and start demoing this property, and we were able to get through the yards and the buildings as they cleared the materials out and realized that these buildings were way too unique and cool to tear down. So then we started working on how do we reimagine the space.
And that's something that I absolutely love about this whole concept is like repurposing these old historic structures in Kansas City, because that's what makes Kansas City so unique, right? So tell us a little bit about some of the concept ideas for these buildings.
So obviously you have the Ferris wheel behind us. That's phase one of the project. Da Vinci KC, our company, we've master leased about an acre of space towards the north of the property, which you see behind us will be Barrel Hall, and we have 4 different licensees that will operate in that concept. Boulevard will have a barrel-aged tasting experience and bar. Chef J Barbecue is moving their operations here. Nick Grunauer has a great new Austrian sausage concept called Würstel.
Würstel, okay.
Which means sausage in Austrian, I believe.
Okay.
And then we've got plans for a whiskey bar that we'll have on the mezzanine adjoining Nick Grunauer's space.
Cool. So the location is something that's been somewhat controversial across all of my social media content that I've done on this project. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, you know, address some of the concerns about it being located close to this overpass in the highway. Obviously, we're down here now. I mean, it doesn't seem very loud to me.
You know, it's not terribly loud. It's part of the urban fabric that is the crossroads, right? And so we're sitting in a 3-acre site in the middle of downtown Kansas City that was underutilized, that didn't generate a whole lot of property tax revenue. And basically, the way that we look at it is we've uncovered this jewel in Kansas City. Like literally this site helped build Kansas City from a historic standpoint for the last 100 years, and we're bringing it back to life, showcasing the industrial historic property and then modernizing it and activating it with food, beverage, and entertainment.
Cool.
Bottle concept, elevated burgers. We partnered with Casey Cattle Company. They're a Wagyu beef rancher in Weston, Missouri. Veteran owned and local company, so we'll be selling Wagyu burgers, Wagyu steak sandwiches, steak salads, and a menu of high quality items. Lots of bottled beer, wine, and spirits. So back here you've got where the floor's cut out, we've got a big master kitchen for the beef and bottle and a bank of restrooms. Imagine this is the back bar with all these beams exposed, a really narrow brass bar in front, lots of neon and porcelain and glass behind the bar, showcasing our variety of bottled wine, beer, and spirits. High top, 6-top tables all along this wall, 2 tops on the outside, a bank of booths over there. And so, like when you walk in here, you know, the feeling is like you're walking back into a joint in like the 60s or 70s.
It's gonna feel kind of like a speakeasy almost.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Cool.
So there's seating for, you know, 70 to 80 people in this room. We leave everything exposed, seal the brick. Lots of neon and some really cool art in here. Funk and soul and R&B music playing. And then we'll go upstairs where we like to say that we elevate the experience to the next level with the Funk House. A little history on the Funk House and where that name came from. This building was originally the Funkhauser Equipment Company. So they sold heavy equipment, dredging equipment in Kansas City starting in 1908. So this site literally helped build a lot of Kansas City. And so paying homage back to Funkhauser, we've named the space upstairs the Funk House.
That's so cool. Are you considering moving to Kansas City? Download our free relocation guide in the link below.
The dead man anchors on the wall, again leaving this space exposed, sealing it. We've got a bank of booths over here, a raised area, lots of TVs in this room, drink rail, a bar over there, bank of restrooms, and then you'll walk through that really cool old safe vault
So
door.
that's a safe door.
That's an old safe
Whoa,
vault.
that's
And
awesome.
so that's the entrance to one of our VIP skyboxes.
Cool.
So you'll go through this safe door. There'll be love seats on either side. You'll walk out to this skybox overlooking the indoor tailgate beer garden.
Have you thought about a name for that particular room yet?
Not yet, but we're working on it. We're working on it.
Wow, I love how every single space is just so thought out and intentional.
Well, the goal is to create all these intimate spaces that are versatile, can be used as regular public space, or it could be sectioned off for private and corporate events, birthday parties, different things like that. So now I'm going to take you out to the mezzanine. So this is another kind of multi-purpose space. It's an extension to the funk house when we need to for bottle service and private events. It's also premium seating for any event that we have going on in the tailgate indoor beer garden. But we've got 4 luxury box suites up here, and then the big one down there that you'll enter through the safe vault. An elevator will get you up to this space. This is one of the smaller spaces, but all 3 of these big bays hold 25 to 30 people. They'll be appointed with TVs in each corner, individual sound piped in, so lounge furniture, big head table. So like on Saturdays and Sundays, a group of people can come in here, rent the space. You can have 5 different groups up here watching 5 different games with 5 different sound piped in.
Whoa, that's going to be awesome.
Great for families to come, rent the space for the day. It's a central gatherings and meeting place for the family. They can send people to ride Ferris wheel, play mini golf, play sand volleyball, play yard games, eat all food and drink, and then have a central place to come back and gather.
And then you're going to have a retractable awning on this portion of the roof,
There'll
right?
be a retractable awning, right? And so just imagine being up here at night, and you've got a concert going on down there, you've got the Brooksider Bar activity down below this that extends from the mezzanine, and you've got this beautiful Ferris wheel all lit up spinning in the background. I mean, there's really nothing like it.
Yeah, I'm starting to really picture this come together, and it's getting me more and more excited about the space. And I love what you guys have done too with like putting trees inside of the space, right, to kind of bring the outdoors indoors. I know that was really intentional as well.
Very unique. So, you know, the Crossroads is lacking green space, and downtown in itself is lacking green space. So one of our goals is to bring as much greenery, trees, landscaping, and you'll see more as the project develops out, but really create this park-like setting in the middle of Penway Point. We don't want to be someplace where you come and you grab something to eat and you leave. We want people to come and grab their lunch, sit out in the tailgate yard, work on our free Wi-Fi, spend the afternoon here working out in the park-like setting.
Cool. So this is the tailgate experience. Tell us about the rest of the experience, the outdoor part of Tailgate Park.
So the Tailgate Park is our outdoor area. By day, it's a game yard, sitting area. At nighttime, we'll have concerts, game day events for local sports teams, comedy shows, movie nights. We're talking to a couple different movie operators about doing a movie night on earbuds. Really, and then in the wintertime, we take that yard and we'll put an ice rink in the middle of it, and we'll have ice skating. You know, kind of like our version of Rockefeller Center. You know, with the amphitheater-style seating, the food and beverage, you'll be able to come in, get some hot cocoa, get a coffee, go out and watch your kids ice skate on the rink.
Man, it's as you're describing it, it's just it's amazing the amount of entertainment that you're fitting into this space, like you said, that's in the middle of downtown, like prime real estate that hasn't been tapped into ever until now.
Well, we feel like we're a connection, right? So we're in the West Side neighborhood. We adjoin to the Crossroads in downtown, and you've got Crown Center and Union Station with over 1 million annual visitors a year each. You've got Boulevard Brewery with over 1 million visitors annually also. There's never been that connector. So Boulevard has always struggled with the fact that people don't walk from those 2 big destinations to their site because the area is a little bit, or has been a little bit blighted. So we feel like this is a great opportunity to be able to connect now 4 major Kansas City destinations in Boulevard, now Penway Point, Union Station, and Crown Center, not to mention Liberty Memorial in the park.
Wow. So another phase of the development that I'm really excited about, I know a lot of people in Kansas City are excited about as well, is the Neon Alley and the Lumi Museum. So can you talk to us about how that partnership was formed and kind of what we should expect from that?
Yeah, so Vince Bryant, one of our partners in Da Vinci and the developer, he and Nick Vidras met 6 or 7 years ago on another project. And as this project, you know, started taking shape, Vidras came in and had this idea to put, let's put Neon Alley here. So over the past couple of years, we've been working with the Lumi Group and Nick Vidros. He's done an amazing job of going out and collecting all these antique, historical Kansas City neon signs, finding sponsors to refurbish them. There's one, you can kind of see it right here. So the downtown Wheeler Airport, the downtown Kansas
Oh yeah,
City,
I see it.
that was
I see
in
it right
front of
through there.
Wheeler Airport.
Cool. Now another thing that I know has been brought up a lot by our viewers is the parking situation, right? We live in Kansas City. Everybody wants to have a place to park their car. What do you guys, do you have designated spots for that?
We do. So parking's really important. So we have leased a combination of 3 acres underneath the I-35 bridge and the Penway Bridge for parking. So we can park close to 400 cars on site. When phase 1 of the Ferris wheel opens, we should have 100 cars that we can park, and within the next 2 months, 180 cars underneath the I-35 bridge.
Wow, cool. So it sounds like we're getting pretty close to that being operational. But what about the rest of the development? I mean, it looks like there's still a lot of work to be done here. What is your timeline for everything?
So obviously phase 1 is the Ferris wheel and mini golf and everything that Icon's doing with the KC wheel. Phase 2 will be everything along Jefferson. So Da Vinci, our company, we've master leased the barrel building, beef and bottle, tailgate. Our goal is to get everything open mid-2024 so that we can have Barrel Hall opening mid-summer, and then this building and tailgate fully operational by the time football season starts next fall.
Wow, okay, cool. So that's a pretty short timeline. You guys got a lot of work to do in that.
There's been a lot of work that's already been done. So all of our design is finished. We're bidding out construction right now. We're waiting on a couple permits to come back, but we anticipate starting construction sometime after the first of the year.
Awesome. Well, I for one am very, very excited about this development. Dante, I really appreciate you accepting this request for an interview and kind of showing everybody in Kansas City and people who are visiting or maybe moving to Kansas City what this is really going to be all about.
I think everybody involved in the project is extremely proud to be here and proud to showcase this site for Kansas City. I feel blessed to be a part of it. I love showing it off. I can't wait till we can get everything open and people can come down here and see what we've got going on for themselves.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I appreciate you, man. All right.
Thanks.
So what does all this have to do with moving to Kansas City? Well, I think it matters a great deal because it shows just how much the city is growing. And if you would like to know what it's like to live within walking distance of Penway Point, then watch this video here.
Give it gas when I'm dipping competition, getting past, living fast, furious, staying on track, never worry when I'm spinning. Laughs better getting back, ride for my dog, alphabeted on us, you gon' get it back. Never split this pack. Whenever I witness cap, we ain't fucking with your fiction, facts, your conviction lacks. When I get up in my bag, I'ma spend, we ain't tripping off tax, clipping this tag, working on my wish list, cooking this cake. Let me flip this stack. You a flash in the pan, while you relaxing, I can't. My team finna pack the sedan, putting tracks in the sand, pushing my craft. To the fam, got the people all clapping their hands, putting cash in my brand, keeping my octane high, my graded premium, not 8-9 or 8-7, and when I run across state line, I'm 9-1, I gun it, clock great time, my time come, disappearing in the dark horizon, way I cut turns, I'm as sharp as diamonds, got them on tilt like a car's alignment, this is raw refinement, not a hard assignment, I'ma give it gas, give it gas, bitch.
Mm.